Games in the Smash series are no strangers to characters with gimmicks, odd hitboxes, and overwhelming projectiles as part of their game plans. All of these characters, however, have the same thing in common. They all follow one specific unspoken rule of the game. That is, all these characters but one. Today, we're taking a deeper look into Zero Suit Samus, someone who only starts the match as a top-tier character. But before we hop in, this video is sponsored. Wait, it's Brawl related, The sponsor of this video is the legendary VG Bootcamp. They just launched VGTV_Brawl, a curated showcase of the best Brawl sets in history, live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you've ever found yourself wanting to relive the Brawl glory days, experience some of the culture firsthand, or simply want to see some of the best sets in Smash history, now you can. Head over to twitch.tv/VGTV_Brawl to start watching today. And thanks again to VG Bootcamp for sponsoring this video. Go watch some Brawl after you're done watching some Brawl. Like I said at the start of the video, every character in Brawl and Smash in general follows one particular unspoken rule. The rule is such: all of their abilities are consistent across every stock. Future games introduce comeback mechanics, gimmicks like Terry Bogard's Go Meter or Cloud's Limit Break. Characters can draw items like Peach's Turnips. But these are mechanics or abilities that will reliably be available for every single stock. Sure, you might not get a Stitch face every time, but there's nothing stopping you from pulling turnips between stocks to try. You might lose a stock early as Terry, but the potential to access his Go Meter attacks is there for every stock. This makes Brawl Zero Suit Samus a special, unusual case that has never quite been replicated since. Why is that, you ask? Well, Zero Suit Samus starts the game with 3 powerful items that, once despawned, do not come back. So why does she spawn in with them in the first place, and why don't they come back? To my own surprise, the answer to that is actually a little bit complicated. To start, people oftentimes mention the popular characters that can transform, Sheik and Zelda being the most famous, obviously, but I've talked about Pokemon Trainer in the past, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has Pyra/Mythra. But in Brawl, specifically, you'll notice that Sheik and Zelda's portrait says Zelda/Sheik, and Squirtle, Ivysaur, and Charizard are all grouped up as Pokemon Trainer, revealing the individual Pokemon as you hover the character's portrait. But Zero Suit Samus is nowhere to be seen. In fact, she's not even a visibly playable character at all. Which is odd, because Zero Suit Samus technically, sort of, also lands in that same ballpark, except only in casual play. Despite being a fully fleshed out individual character in Brawl, her existence outside of the Subspace Emissary, or Brawl's big single-player or co-op adventure mode, seems to be more between an Easter egg and a full character. You could unlock 10 of the 14 unlockable characters, minus Jigglypuff, Toon Link, Sonic, and Wolf, but for unrelated, delayed video game development reasons, by fighting their shadow versions in the Subspace Emissary or having them join your team. But despite, like I said, Zero Suit Samus not even being visible on the character select screen, she is never unlocked at all in this way, nor does the game tell you how to start as her in a regular match, even after beating Subspace. You can even see on the final roster after beating Subspace, she's not present. Remember how I said she was technically sort of classified as a transformation character? As a casual player, outside of the Subspace Emissary, there's really only one way you'd get to play as Zero Suit Samus in a match, unless you were a frequent visitor of Smash Dojo, the official Brawl website, and also the only official place that mentions how to play as ZSS in a regular match, and that's using regular Samus's Final Smash, which melts all of her armor off, and then forces you to play as ZSS, until ZSS gets a Smash Ball herself, where using it lets her turn back into regular Power Suit Samus. To play as Zero Suit Samus without having to go through all that, you select Samus on the character screen, then hold down the shield button on whatever controller you're using when transitioning from character select to stage select. You can then see that Samus turns into Zero Suit in the little character portraits on the stage select screen. You can also force regular Samus to turn into ZSS by mashing up and down taunt in very quick succession on the D-pad, where when done correctly, she'll kneel down and turn into ZSS on the spot. Like I said, this is never mentioned in-game, only on the official website. That being said, there are little hints hidden around Brawl that suggests she maybe wasn't intended to be part of the regular roster, such as upon spawning into the match this way as ZSS, her intro animation is the exact same as the animation she does after finishing regular Samus's final smash. They probably used this specific animation as her entrance animation because it was already used to load ZSS into the game when playing as Samus, and was therefore less work than creating new animations and then programming them in. In instances in single player where the entrance animations are bypassed, she unsurprisingly doesn't spawn in with the armor pieces. If you're playing on Pokemon Stadium, the Jumbotron in the background will only show the name Samus, and never Zero Suit Samus. It'll even change to say Squirtle, Ivysaur, or Charizard instead of just Pokemon Trainer, but only ever Samus. And then back again on the official Brawl website, it mentions getting Zero Suit's final smash, which re-equips her power suit as a relief, which sort of implies that ZSS was meant to be a gimmick in and of herself, a fodder character only located between two final smashes. Lastly, even the Brawl manual suggests that her final smashes are the intended way to switch between the two. As I mentioned briefly earlier, at her feet there are 3 armor pieces. Since she loads into the match the same way she loads in after using her final smash, she'll keep the pieces. But there's a catch. Once they despawn in a competitive match, they're gone for good. Like I said, ZSS can only turn back into regular Samus with a Smash Ball. In competitive Brawl, items are off. There are no Smash Balls. That would give her back her power suit, which then she could remove again by doing the up and down taunt mashing or getting another Smash Ball, giving her the items back over and over again, but you can't do all that in a competitive tournament match. These items give Zero Suit Samus an absurd advantage at the start of the match, making her, very briefly, close to on par with Meta Knight, which I understand sounds insane, but you have to understand how powerful these items are. Each time it hits you, it does between 9 and 11%, and they have one of the highest knockback variables on an item in the game, and absolutely have the potential to kill at low percents off stage. The way that items work in Smash is that the longer they are active and moving, or more accurately not sitting stationary on the ground, the longer they are able to stay in without despawning. In simple terms, most items, like the armor pieces, cannot despawn while in motion, which makes the very start of the match against ZSS a completely different game compared to when they finally despawn. The most common tactic for the start of the match is for Zero Suit Samus, who is stationed across the stage from you, to pick up the pieces and throw 1 or 2 up into the air or down towards the ground, which makes them bounce upwards and staggers their airtime a bit. These pieces continue to bounce after landing and have their strong hitbox active the entire time, making them a deceptively powerful tool in stuffing approaches or taking space. Against some characters, maybe one with a reflector or the speed of Meta Knight, it's reasonable to throw 2 of the pieces off the stage because your opponent can use them against you. But this is not the whole shtick. There's a movement option, not exclusive to, but certainly the most present in Brawl, that makes these suit pieces somehow even more busted. The technique is called the glide toss. Every character in the game, except Yoshi with his wacky-ass shield, can technically do this, but different characters have different friction variables on the ground. All you need to do in order to glide toss is pick up an item, roll, and then within a 5-frame window after your roll, throw with the item. That's it. I promise you, you can pick up a controller right now and get it within your first 3 tries. The result of those inputs is that your character cancels the roll in order to throw the item. But since you already started the roll, the movement variable is still activated, so you still move in that direction. Zero Suit Samus's glide toss is coincidentally really, really good. And since you can toss items in any direction with a glide toss, not just in front of you, while also being actionable right after the throwing animation is done, there are tons of approach options, mix-ups, edgeguard, shield pressure, and general witchcraft that you can perform while in possession of these armor suit pieces. Zero Suit Samus's ability to manage all 3 pieces is imperative to the rest of the match. As I can't state this enough, this is a massive advantage early on, and has the potential to put you very far in the lead. We're talking potential to get 1 or 2 full stocks ahead right off the bat. This character isn't very popular, however, for multiple reasons that I'll get into, but essentially everything boils down to she is difficult to play. Like most characters in Brawl, she had some small quirks. For example, players would have to use a technique called pivot rolling, because her forward roll was almost twice as fast as her awful backwards roll. By, well, pivoting before rolling, you could pivot roll and substitute her backwards roll for the forwards roll. But I'm not here to focus on small stuff like this. She's 9th on the tier list, which is impressive, but she's only really good in the air, and therefore her ground game leaves much to be desired. She has a very fast jab, Plasma Whip is a good spacing tool, Neutral B is an okay pressure tool, and her Paralyzer Shot is quick and great to start combos or call out an approach. In Brawl, Zero Suit Samus' down smash stuns them long enough for you to do 2 in a row, with enough time afterwards to land a forward air, for almost 40%, which in Brawl is an absurd amount of damage for one opening. But most of these tools are used alongside certain aerials like back or neutral air to play neutral until you see an opening that you can exploit. This is where ZSS starts to shine. Her advantage state, her punish game, and the armor pieces allow her way more options to streamline this entire process. After getting them off stage or into the air, her aerial kit actually resembles a swordy archetype, or someone like Marth or Ike with strong, disjointed hitboxes, in terms of how each attack is implemented. Her up air is an extremely fast juggle option, complemented perfectly by her fantastic ground speed and vertical jump speed. It is very hard for lots of characters to land against ZSS, as this option is fast as lightning, with a stupid disjointed hitbox. ZSS up air is one of the best moves in the entire game. It deals 10% or 7% on Sour Spot, combos into itself, is her best out of shield option, effortlessly auto-cancels, kills off the top on low ceilings, and according to the Smashboard ZSS guide from 2009, it cures cancer. Her forward air and back air will take up lots of space and KO off stage early, and her better than average recovery options allow her to make it back to the stage after hunting her opponent down. Not to mention, Zero Suit Samus' back air is so disjointed, it beats out Marth's forward air. So you can see why using the armor pieces to force your opponent into situations like that is a luxury you won't have later in the match after they despawn, effectively making her a top tier character, but only for about one stock. It's likely that they just wanted to do something interesting and creative, and although I've explored some interesting and creative stuff in Brawl that absolutely did not pan out, I will reiterate one idea. It's something cool that Zero Suit Samus exists at all, whether you found out she was in the game from her subspace section, or if you're more like me and grew up with Metroid Zero Mission as one of your first ever video games.
Metroid Zero Mission!
And then found out Zero Suit Samus was in Brawl from using final smashes against your childhood best friends. Either way, it was a magical moment. But regardless, ZSS is an interesting competitive character, a lopsided one that's top tier at the start of the match, but a mid tier by the end. It's a beautiful time capsule of a time period when Smash's competitive scene was still small enough for Nintendo to try and stomp out the flames, where it was okay for them to cut corners, because realistically from a casual perspective, there's really no reason why anyone would complain about her being implemented in this way. Thanks for watching, and for the support. With the last video, we hit 50k subs. Half a YouTube plaque in only 3 months is a crazy number for me to think about, so thank you. Like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed the content, and like always, there is more on the way. See you next time.